Well, let me tell you something, Mean Gene. That's right, it's me. It's Hulk Hogan with the largest arms in the world, and I body slammed Andre the Giant in the middle of the Pontiac Silverdome. And I'm telling you today on the Anarchy Arena podcast, brother, we're going to be talking about wrestling and what makes us love it, brother. That's right. And I'm going to ask you what you going to do, except listen to this podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is that time once again. You are back here for the Anarchy Arena podcast, but it is a special edition of the Anarchy Arena podcast because today is the wrestling episode of the Anarchy Arena podcast. And tonight you have me, Chris the Metal Barrett, and the Excalibur to my Tony Schiavone.
Okay. I was going to say, I'm not John the Joker.
No, the Excalibur to my Tony Schiavone.
I'm legally going to change my name, Chris.
To what?
To Rattler McNasty.
You're not going to let this go, are you?
No.
I'm looking at the picture right now in our Discord chat, by the way.
There is a guy I found out today. This has to deal with wrestling. There's a guy who went by the Diamondback Cowboy.
Rattler McNasty.
And all I gotta say is, Stone Cold should have got sued at least once. Because this guy's, like, he was all in on the snake gimmick. Had, like, the snake hat, snake coat, snake cane. Like, you could go on my Twitter right now and see, like, there's a video of him entering the ring. The guy had a full fucking snake cane. So now I am officially known as Rattler McNasty.
Well, all right, McNasty. All right. So this is going to be the wrestling show. Unfortunately, Billy can't be with us for this recording session, but that's all right. We decided that we're going to talk a little wrestling, something Billy's not very on the up and up about, but that's okay. We're going to try and do these about once every 10 episodes, go over, what's going on in the world of wrestling, what our views on and whatnot. But since this is the first one, we're going to kind of do a little bit of a primer here. Our thoughts on wrestling in general, our history with it, and very recently, John and I went to a live wrestling show up in Nashville, where they were doing a TV live event. And this is not the first one we've gone to, so we're going to talk about our experiences going to two separate companies' live shows. But we're going to start things off with you, McNasty.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
You're welcome. We're going to start things off with you, John McNasty. I'm just going to go with John McNasty. John McNasty.
That works too.
John McNasty. So, for those of you,
even though you're dead naming me,
right? For those of you that don't know, John is the one that got me into wrestling. I was not into it growing up. I was not allowed to watch it actually because my dad thought it was stupid. So I didn't get into wrestling until I moved to Tennessee and I met John and they took me to watch my first pay-per-view. So John has
which happened to be WrestleMania.
Which happened to be WrestleMania 24.
Yep.
So John has a long and storied history with wrestling. And why don't you just give the folks at home the Cliff Notes version of your history with wrestling?
Well, I've been a wrestling nerd for about 26 years at this point. I've watched everything from ECW back when it was on TNT. I watched local shit. I've been to every type of wrestling you can go to big arena pay-per-view shows, to small 15-person bingo hall / high school gym wrestling events. So to say I am a wrestling nerd is kind of underselling it. I'm like, I'm like the nice version of Cornette, motherfucker.
I really hope he hears that, by the way. Yeah, you are the you are the nicer version of Jim Cornette, because say what you will about the man, he is a wrestling nerd. But the difference between the two of you being is that you don't bash on every single wrestler that you find a little iffy.
Well, here's the thing, and we'll talk about what pisses off about wrestling, because I do have things that piss me off about.
Oh yeah, there are absolutely things that piss people off about wrestling, us included.
Yeah, but the way I see it is that every form of entertainment goes through a period where they completely change who and what they are, what the product is. And if you can't get past it, I mean, shit, back in the 20s when you had like Luthez and Ed Strangler Lewis and fucking Killer Kowalski out there, like it was a bunch of old flabby bald guys out there grappling with each other, which is fine. I actually really enjoy that shit. It's fun to watch.
It was old strongman competitions was basically what it was, but just a little bit more flair.
Exactly. Now, granted,
no pun intended on the flair thing.
Woo. But granted, that didn't change until one wrestler came around. And do you know who that wrestler is, Chris?
I'm gonna guess it was Gorgeous George.
It was Gorgeous George. When Gorgeous George came out, dressed in his exquisite robes with the blonde hair and acting a little effeminate, it pissed people off, and it made people pay to go see a guy get the shit kicked out of him. Now, granted, the old timers back then were like, he's acting like a damn fruit, he's acting like a damn fairy and shit like that. And I mean, yes, that was the point, man. And it's like, oh, well, he doesn't deserve to be in this sport. Like, it's the same shit happens over and over and over again. That's one of the big things I hate about wrestling. Is I hate when people say this does not belong in wrestling. Bullshit. Are you having a match in the ring where the outcome is predetermined? If the answer is yes, you're professional wrestling.
Right.
What you do it's like making chili. Some people say if you make chili with beans, you're doing it wrong. Some people say if you don't make chili with beans, you're doing it wrong.
Either way, you're getting chili at the end of it, so
exactly,
it doesn't matter how you get there. Exactly.
Yeah.
So,
but I can remember the first time I ever watched wrestling.
Okay.
I can remember my first match, and this is gonna explain a lot about me.
I'm sure it will.
It was Doink the Clown, Matt Bourne as Doink versus Bret the Hitman Hart.
That
on a Saturday morning program.
That had to be an interesting match.
Oh no, those two were fucking great. Matt Bourne was a great technical wrestler, and so I mean, and Bret Hart need I say more? Both of those guys were great technical wrestlers, but Doink the Clown was Doink the fucking Clown when he was still good, and it was Bret the fucking Hitman Hart. So that was like my first exposure to wrestling where I was like, oh, this is really cool. I want to watch more of this. And I got to live through what some would say is the golden age of wrestling, the Attitude Era, the Monday Night Wars. I got to see the formation of NWO live. I got to see DX get born live. And I also watched ECW when I was a kid when I really shouldn't have. That was when I was first getting into Rob Zombie and Slipknot and shit like that. Like when I was getting into like the fucking Murder Dolls and stuff like that as a young little kid, going, "This shit's awesome."
So for anybody who's been listening to this show for 9 episodes leading into this one, wondering why John is the way he is, now you know.
Yeah, I was a weird little kid, man. I would go to church every Sunday and listen to Rob Zombie on the way home. Like, I'm a weird guy, man. But it's funny to me because like you never watched it until you were like 19.
Yeah, 19 or 20, yeah, when I watched that first pay-per-view.
We were in college, and it was WrestleMania season. It was me and a couple of friends. We're like, oh yeah, let's go to Hooters. We'll buy a couple of appetizers. We'll watch the pay-per-view for free. It's gonna be really good. And Chris was like, what? You're gonna go watch wrestling? I was like, you never watched it, have you?
No, I hadn't. No. I wasn't allowed to growing up because my dad, that's exactly what he called it, was wrestling. It was stupid to him. So he saw no point in having it on the house, and I wasn't allowed to watch it, so I just never did. I never got into it. I knew plenty of friends that did, but I wasn't one of them. So I end up going with them to Hooters to experience this for the first time, mostly just to go and hang out with my friends at Hooters, because you're 19, 20 years old, going to Hooters for a few hours ain't such a bad way to spend an afternoon.
There's some really good buffalo wings, don't they?
You know, also as my dad used to say, Hooters could sell nothing but fried buffalo balls, and people would go there and go, "Man, Hooters got the best fried buffalo balls on the planet."
You damn right.
But we go to the Hooters, and I'm watching the pay-per-view, and something clicks in my head. I'm like, wait a second, this is stupid, but it's also not at the same time. This is impressive. This is technical. This is a performance. This is a production. What is this? Because I grew up in a household with two overgrown musical theater kids, so I'm looking at it from a production standpoint, going, this is a massively organized and well-produced oiled machine. How in the hell does this work? And then that's when John stepped in.
It's Shakespeare in the squared circle. That's the best way I know to describe wrestling. It's Shakespeare in the squared circle. Is it over the top? Yes. Is it crass? Yes. But so was Shakespeare. So let's get over that shit.
For his time, absolutely. He was very blue.
He's still crass. Like, reread some of that stuff sometimes. You'll be like, holy shit.
Yeah, it's true.
Like,
but after watching that pay-per-view, I went through this phase of, I want to know more. I want to get behind it. I want to know where all this came from. I want to know everything I possibly could. So I became, for a while, kind of a closet wrestling nerd. And I was going back and learning about the golden years and learning about the Attitude Era and learning where all these guys came from, whose names I had heard throughout the years. You know, you can't go through life not ever hearing the name Stone Cold Steve Austin, or you can't go through
Ric Flair.
never hearing the name Ric Flair or John Cena for that time. You don't,
or Shawn Michaels.
You hear these names, but now I was learning to associate the names with what these guys had done in their careers, and I became so impressed with what they do, because what a lot of people say is, oh, it's all fake. Okay, to those people, I have to say one thing I say over and over again. Is it fake in the sense that the outcome is predetermined? Absolutely. 100%. I will agree with you on that standpoint. However,
except when it's not. Except when
it's not, which sometimes does happen. Except it's still 250 to 350 pound dudes picking up and chucking other 250 to 300 pound dudes. Now, granted, yeah, they might be helping each other out a bit, but it still requires skill to make sure you don't hurt the other guy. It requires physical strength that far surpasses my own, and it requires a mental ability that people just don't give wrestlers credit for.
No, especially like guys from back in the day when you didn't have a script. Like,
when you were going out there and having a match and figuring it out on the fly, you knew how it was supposed to end. You knew who was supposed to win, but everything from the time the bell rung to the time that ending happened, you had to make up on the spot. So you have to figure out code and a way to talk to your opponent where the crowd doesn't notice. And when cameras became involved, when the cameras didn't notice, and it's the theater of it and the production, even if it's not, high production value cameras and all that shit, just the production of two guys being able to get in a ring and put on a performance and just be able to do it without any form of, conventional communication has got to be, if you break it down to that, is one of the most impressive things ever.
Yeah. And like what JR has said after McFoley fell off the Hell in the Cell. People are going to say, oh yeah, he knows how to fall. Well, tell me, how the hell do you learn how to fall from 30 fucking feet?
You don't. How do you learn? How do you learn to fall from 30 feet into a table that's meant to be broken, but still, it's still a table from 30 feet in the air. There's no right way to do it.
Yeah, like the table is meant to slow down your fall so you don't bust your head on concrete.
Now, are there better ways to do it so you can hurt yourself less? Yeah, sure. And Mick, damned as he tried really hard to do that. Didn't quite work out that way, but.
Well, he was already concussed by the time that second fall happened. So.
Yeah, I think that second fall just kind of woke him back up.
Well, that second fall, like he said that he remembers falling the first time, and then climbing the cage, and then waking up on the mat going, I hurt everywhere.
Right? Which for Mick is kind of normal anyway, so.
Well, it became the norm, especially after that match.
Right.
But yeah, no, it was weird though, because Chris was like, Chris would come up to me and be like, "Teach me wrestling," and I was like,
to the point
okay.
to the point that I actually had him put me in a figure 4 one time because I'm watching these matches and I'm watching these moves. I'm going, okay, some of these I can understand and it hurts, but I'm like, figure 4, really? It's just some dudes wrapping their legs around each other. And he's like, come here. John puts me in a figure 4 and then actually does it, and it fucking hurts. It is not a comfortable thing to be in.
No, it's meant to legitimately hurt because it was a legitimate hold. It's like a little bit of a heel hook mixed with an ankle lock.
Right. So you got a lot of pressure on your lower leg. You got a lot of pressure on your calf muscle mixed in with the pressure on the bone on the ankle. It's not comfortable at all.
No.
And mind you, we're doing it on like a living room floor in a controlled environment and air conditioning. These guys are doing it in front of, 15,000 people, in front of, probably 1,200 lumens worth of lights, sweating their asses off, covered in baby oil and blood potentially. That's got to be a fucking uncomfortable way to get paid.
That should be a t-shirt.
That should be
uncomfortable. Wrestling, an uncomfortable way to get paid.
I love it.
The second most uncomfortable way to get paid.
There you go. Wrestling, the second most uncomfortable way to get paid. I love it. That's perfect. That's a t-shirt right there. But no, I basically told him, teach me wrestling, and he did. And when WWE came out with the network, it had a whole back catalog of a whole bunch of stuff. So I got to experience a whole back catalog that wasn't, DVDs that he had or DVDs I was borrowing from a friend or, totally not illegally downloading off the internet back in the day.
Hey, we didn't have many options back
we
then.
didn't. We were broke and everyone was pirating at the time. So, I've seen the rise and fall of ECW. I've seen the rise and fall of WCW, which for those wrestling fans that are out there, I am fully aware that those are full of WWE propaganda. I'm fully aware of that. But if you watch those knowing that, you can still pick out the factual information.
Well, the thing is, the Monday Nitros are as they are on the network. Watch that and then go, wait a minute. Like, you're telling me that you guys are like way better than them, and you're obviously not, at least the first couple of years. Like without WCW, you don't have cruiserweight wrestling. You don't have
lucha wrestling.
You don't have lucha wrestling
in America, yeah.
Well, in a grand scope, like lucha wrestling in Texas and California was fucking huge.
Well, yeah, because they had a higher Hispanic population, obviously.
Yeah. Like in Texas, the rule was if you're going to book in Texas, you have a Latin, a Latino champion,
right?
Because that's how you get them over. But and I was teaching them because like the way I see things, and this kind of goes into a deeper topic of nerddom. Being a nerd is a lot more fun when you have somebody to share.
Oh, absolutely, it is.
When you gatekeep and tell people they can't join in, that they don't know enough, so therefore they should just shut up. No, fuck that noise. I want people to fall in love with wrestling. I want people to understand the reason why I like it, because it's not some stupid fucking thing. It's a lot deeper than people give it credit for.
It really is. And John and I are two different sides of the same coin when it comes to wrestling nerddom. John's version of wrestling nerddom, and correct me if I'm wrong, is you're in it for, you want that suspension of disbelief. You want to be pulled out of your seat. You want to have the story and the production be so good that you forget that you're watching what's essentially a predetermined sport.
Yeah, no, for me, what I love about wrestling is that there is, when you can tune out your adulthood and act like a kid and get pissed off at somebody who you're like afterwards you're like, holy shit, he really got me good. And he's probably not like that in real life, but when he's in the ring, perfect fucking example, and this is the modern example. MJF, Maxwell Jacob Friedman.
Current performer for AWF. Or AWF.
AEW.
Wow, there was a weird deep cut. Yeah, current performer for AEW and former MLW, and all around probably the top heel in the business right now. For those of you that don't know, heel is equal to bad guy.
Yeah, and he is a jock asshole, and that character has been done. That specific character trope has been done to death in wrestling, but he does it in such a way that you're just like, oh, fuck you. Like, you're such a shitheel.
But and
Which
you
makes
love
sense.
to hate him. That's the thing. You want to hate
Yeah.
him, and he wants you to want to hate him.
Right, and it's like old school Ric Flair.
Yes.
Old school Ric Flair never got well. He usually would never get cheered because he was such a dick.
He was a cocky asshole.
Yeah, which is as nerds as people who maybe never were as physically gifted, we all have known someone exactly like that says the exact same shit. And you're just like, God, I just want somebody to punch you in the fucking face, and that's what wrestling gives you when you suspend your disbelief. Now, Chris is what we like to call a smart.
It's
he
true.
He wants to know all the background shit. He wants to know who's feuding with who in the backstage area, who's leaving, who wants to be released, blah blah blah.
I like knowing all that, and when I watch a match, I do like that suspension of disbelief. But I'm also watching, going, okay, that was a good move of X type. I can see where they're doing this talk here. Oh wait, I can tell that wasn't planned. Oh, that spot right there might not have gone the way that they planned. Someone might actually be a little fucked up after this. Okay, everything looks like it went well. I'm watching it from a more analytical sense, if that makes sense. Because that's the part of it that really interests me, is the fact that all of this is happening in, milliseconds of time, that all of these decisions are being made, and it's all choreographed, but it's like instantaneous choreography, if that makes sense. And that's the part that really interests me until I get to a live show. When I get to a live show, 90% of the time, all bets are off, and I'm just totally engrossed.
And that's, Billy Shakes, William Shakespeare, if you're not cool, has one of the greatest quotes. All the world is a stage, and we all have our parts. I have always been a performer, and Chris has always been a backstage guy.
Yep.
He's always been I want to make everything work, and I'm always like, I want to be I want to be the entertainment. And I love Chris for that, but I also am like, dude, you gotta just shut up, turn your brain off, and go, look, this guy actually hates this guy in order to fully get into it. But it's always funny though, because wrestling fans usually have that one feud, one match, or whatever that gets them into it. What was your one thing where you're just like, oh no, I'm 100% into this. I believe everything about it, or at least I'm willing to suspend my disbelief in order to get into this completely.
I think for me, it happened a lot later in my wrestling journey than you might think, because I watched a lot of WWE product because it was the only thing around for a very long time. And as you well know, for a while there, it started to get stale until they revamped Florida Championship Wrestling and turned it into what we now know as NXT. And it was that first class of NXT, specifically Prince Devitt, Fergal Devitt, aka Finn Balor. And he really got me invested in who he was. He really got me invested in his in-ring ability. And for his matches, I was able to suspend my belief suspend my disbelief. I was able to get invested in who he was feuding with. I was able to get invested in his in-ring ability. I was full on into believing that he was straight up sling blading dudes left and right, and it was fucking destroying them, because that guy is such a masterful technician in the ring. And not to, throw shade or disrespect on the generations that came before him, because absolutely not. He wouldn't be there without those generations. But that was the time when I started watching. That was the time when I was really getting into it. So that was the character, that was the person, that was the performer that I connected with. So any feud he was in, I was on his side. I was invested in him. And even though I don't watch that product anymore, I want him to do so well. I want Fergal Devitt to be the best damn wrestler on the planet. I don't care what company he works for.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. Like, I may not like WWE as a company at the moment, but I do not disparage anybody that works for that company, that chooses to work for that company. I mean, make your bread the way you're gonna make your bread.
Exactly.
Because for me, the thing that got me into wrestling was Stone Cold Steve Austin versus Shawn Michaels, WrestleMania 15, with Mike Tyson as the enforcer. Oh my god! Just that whole match was perfect. I remember, I distinctly remember as a kid the finish of that match. Shawn Michaels sets up the Sweet Chin Music, gets blocked. Stone Cold talks trash, spins him around, hits him with the Stone Cold Stunner. Mike Tyson jumps in the ring, 1, 2, 3, and
it's a quick 1, 2, 3. The pat, pat, pat.
Yeah, it's a quick 1, 2, 3. I think that was more of a fuck up on Tyson's end, but that's beside the point. And it's revealed that Mike Tyson was a Stone Cold fan. He knocks out Shawn Michaels, and all the way it goes out is good old JR, Jim Ross, who I will always love. And Jim, if you ever listen to this, understand you have made a deep impact on my life as a kid and well into my adulthood. Because he was like, Stone Cold, the era of the rattlesnake has begun. And I was like, I am 100% behind whatever this is. I will watch every episode of Raw now. Like, that was, to me, that was the catalyst that started my deep dive into wrestling fandom.
Which makes sense, because that's back in the era where wrestling was a lot more freeform than the current, we'll call them the corporate product, because it is a very corporate product now. Wrestling was a lot more freeform. The guys were able to do pretty much whatever they wanted. The commentators were, had less management in their ear telling them what to say. It was a lot more off the cuff. When you watch the WWE product now, specifically them, it's very tightly controlled, and it's very easy to tell just how tightly controlled it is.
Yeah, and it's like the difference between a really good promo and a scripted promo. A scripted promo feels like it's somebody else's words coming out of that person's mouth. A unscripted, like, this is what you need to. These are your points that you need to hit. Talk about this, this, and this. Go out there, do your thing. You can feel it,
right?
And that's that's the reason. That's what's been missing in WWE for, like, God, it's been like
years.
Almost 20 years.
Yeah, almost 20 years. Because basically, once they killed off WCW, they knew they had no major competition, so they knew they could pretty much do whatever they wanted, and they were still, having a license to print money.
Yeah, and then the cons came.
And
like, before we started this episode, we were talking about, like, what is it that you love about wrestling? What are, like, certain things you love about wrestling? And I want to start with one of the things I love about wrestling. And it is a guilty fucking pleasure, but I don't care.
Okay.
It's people that have no business getting over. For instance, the BWO, the Blue World Order.
Right.
There's no fucking way that should have gotten over like it did. But because they put their all into it and they made it memorable, it got over. The person that and the team I'm behind right now is the Jurassic Express, and more specifically, and this is going to surprise you, Chris, it's Marco Stunt.
Really?
Marco
Not
Stunt,
Luchasaurus.
Luchasaurus is cool, and don't get me wrong, I love each and every member of that team. But the one that got me over, and it was because of Wednesday, was Marco fucking Stunt.
So as we mentioned before, we did go to live wrestling this past Wednesday as of the recording of this show, and it was AEW Live. It was Dynamite, and we got to see Marco Stunt live. We actually got to see Marco Stunt twice, because right before the show, he walked past us outside in the crowd and gave John a little fist bump, and it was cool. We're just like, hey, Marco, what's going on?
Yeah, just, hey, what's up, Marco?
That is one short fuck.
Yeah, I think he's like 5'3".
If
that.
5'3".
If that.
23 years old, 5'3", and he's getting in there with dudes literally almost twice his size.
And fighting him, too. Like, that's what made me fall in love with him Wednesday. He was, like, giving everything he could there. Like, is he still greener than goose shit at times? Yes, of course he is. But that's not the point, man. He's giving me Rey Mysterio vibes, like mid-2000s Rey Mysterio, like, you have no business being here. Why the fuck are you here? Kind of vibe. And I bought it 100%. And Marco Stunt's one of those guys. It's just like, if you saw him on the street, you'd be like, I can kick his ass. But in a ring, you watch this guy like do like crazy shit, and you're like, okay, I can kind of get behind him. I don't think he's gonna lose more matches than he's ever gonna win.
Oh yeah, of course.
But I don't care. I'm 100% with him. like Chris knows I had, like, some of my guilty pleasures are people like No Way Jose, guy that conga dances.
Congo lines out to the ring. Not because it's great, but because it's fun.
Yeah, it's fun. And that's what I want out of wrestling. I want fun. I don't want, like, boring bullshit. And I also like it when wrestling's treated like a fucking sport. Um, for so long, I feel like wrestling's just been kind of treated as a performance, and it is, but it's also a sport. It needs to be treated as such. Like we need to have wins and losses mean things,
Right.
because that's at the end of the day, like if Marco Stunt went up against Hulk Hogan back in the day, with both of their current win and loss, with both of them with their win loss records, at like Hulk Hogan beating Iron Sheik, Andre the Giant, fucking Paul Orndorff, and Marco Stunt losing the fucking Jimmy down the fucking road, you would never believe that Marco Stunt had a chance in hell. And if he beats him, and oh shit, he just pinned the champ or something like that. You know, that's the shit I love about wrestling. It's not that it's like unbelievable. It's that it's believable to a point.
Right.
And that's what I love it. And sometimes it's the shit I hate the most about wrestling is when they make it so predictable and they do 50-50 booking. Like I'm
so tired of 50-50 booking.
Like 50, like I understand why they do that, because you want to send fans home happy, or you want to send them home angry. But you can't do it all the fucking time, or else people just watch the show. I get it, but at the same time, if you make a win or a loss seem much bigger than just he was meant to lose tonight, like for instance, this Wednesday we watched Chris Jericho, Santa Guevara versus SCU in a tag match. Right now, Chris Jericho at the time, Chris Jericho was undefeated and is the current heavyweight champion.
Right.
He gets pinned in the middle of the ring by one of the members of SCU. 1, 2, 3. His undefeated streak's gone, and now you're like, oh wait a minute, is Scorpio Sky, like, did he just punch his ticket into a championship match? He just pinned the champion.
Just as a sidebar to that, I really, if anyone from AEW hears this, I want them to know that I am so happy with the way that they are positioning Scorpio Sky. Like, if they're like slowly grooming him to be their top guy, I'm to not to put a pun on it, I'm all in. I am all in if Scorpio Sky becomes the face of that company.
And why is that? Because you've seen him overcome odds all the time.
Yes, and he's phenomenal. He's, compared to the rest of the guys on his team and most of the rest of the guys in the locker room, he's relatively young. He's got great mic work. The crowd fucking loves him. He's insanely talented. Like, this guy is doing shit no guy his size has a right being able to do.
Yeah, I mean, the guy's like easily probably 265, 6'3", and runs around that ring like he's one of the young bucks.
Exactly. He's running around the ring like he's fucking Marco Stunt.
Yeah, and it's like, oh yeah, this guy is so athletic. But it's also like he obviously has to work for it, because he's part of a team. He's not a singles guy, so I'm curious how they're going to take that. But I guess since we're already talking about it, let's talk about the live experience of watching wrestling. Now, Chris, you've been to 4 shows now?
Okay, so we did Dynamite this past week. I've been to 1 Raw taping. Well, not taping, but live. I've been to a SmackDown taping. I've been to 2 NXT house shows. And I've been to 3 or 4 independent shows in the area.
Right.
So as far as the live TV shows go, there is a massive difference between going to Raw and going to Dynamite. A massive, massive difference. And you want to know what that major difference is, at least for me? If you had to guess, what would you say that major difference is, John?
Hey, look, Chris, no kids.
There's that, but that's not the one I was going to say. The biggest difference for me is engaging with the fans. When you go to Raw or SmackDown, there's not as much fan engagement in between segments or during commercials as you would think there'd be. When we were at Dynamite, if we're in between segments or, before the show started or, we were in a commercial break, Justin Roberts was in the middle of the ring. He was talking to us. He was, asking people to show their signs and whatnot. He was talking to people in the front row. apparently Nashville just loved him because like 8 times that night there were chants just for him, and I swear to God you could see it on his face. He looked a little bashful in the ring, like fucking really? No one chants for the ring announcer? What the hell?
We do when you're Justin fucking Roberts, all
Because
right?
goddamn did I miss that man's voice. He is an amazing ring announcer. I would say he's up there with the likes of the Fink.
I'd say he's better than the Fink, to be honest with you. He's up there with Tony Schimmel, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And I love Tony Schimmel.
But that was the biggest thing for me is fan engagement. Like Dynamite was very engaging. You wanted to be part of that crowd. When we were at Raw, the last time John and I went to a Raw together, we had decent seats, not as good as our seats for Dynamite, but we had decent seats. And you know what we saw? We saw a family sitting in front of us while the kids were kind of sort of paying attention, and mom was sitting there on her phone the whole time. There was nothing reeling her in. There was no kind of engagement to reel her in and make her want to pay attention. It was, we're going to have a match, and then we're going to cut to commercial, and there's just some people just standing in the ring waiting for the cameras to come back on. There was no interaction. There was no engagement. It was, we're here to do a job, not we're here to have fun.
Well, and it's like, I've always used this comparison because it's apt. Going to see Monday Night Raw is like going to see the Ice Capades. Doing it because the kids want to go see it. All right, whatever, just go. Just, yeah. Oh, yeah, John Cena. Woo, John Cena. Yeah. Fuck it. Let's see what's on Twitter. Going to see AEW and NXT, because we both went to go see an NXT together.
Yeah, those NXT house shows were great.
Yeah. Going to see that is like going to a rock concert.
Yes.
Everyone there is ready for the show to be amazing. Everyone there wants the show to be great. And they are willing to give everything of themselves to make it great.
To put a point on that, John and I were going to record this episode the day after. We were going to record this on Thursday. We couldn't because I still didn't have any voice left because I was yelling my head off.
I had a fucking migraine.
Yeah, that's how engaged we were. That's how amped up we were while we were there. Is I didn't have a voice for a day and a half.
You gotta learn how to scream from the diaphragm, man.
I know. And I was in the moment, man. I wasn't really thinking of the science of my yelling. I was thinking about, fuck you, MJF. But also, I love you, so I have mixed emotions about you.
But that's what I've been missing as a wrestling fan. Chris, you never really experienced it, but I did live when it was happening. And it's like, it's one of those things, it's hard to explain wrestling to somebody who doesn't get it, except for the way I explain it, which is like, it's a concert. If you're going to see the Wiggles in concert, you're not going to give a shit as an adult, right?
Yeah.
Like if you're seeing the Wiggles, you're like, oh fuck, god damn it. I've got the clap and I'm giving it to you. It's like, god damn it, you really have to do this. But if you're going to see Kiss or ZZ Top or Leonard Skinner or Metallica or fucking Iron Maiden or just insert your favorite band, you're going to be just as important and just as much of that experience as the people that are on the stage. That's when wrestling is good.
Exactly.
And that's the reason why I love the more intimate, smaller shows. You know what I realized?
What's that?
The other day when we came back from the show, the same building that they wrestled at, the Municipal, same place that Holly Race, Hulk Hogan, and Ric Flair wrestled at.
Yeah, that building's got a lot of history in it.
And it feels like it. Like, I love the old school seats. That's what got me into that show more than anything else. Is like, oh man, my back hurts. I need to sit up. I need to stand up because if I keep sitting down, my legs are going to go to sleep. I need to get into this performance.
Right. You know what really made me realize how into it I was is when we used to watch WWE here at home, and when we've been to a couple shows, there's a running gag that in most WWE shows, there's the piss break match. There's a match where if you leave to go take a piss or go grab a beer from the concessions or go have a smoke, you're not missing anything important. And I literally looked at John at one point during Dynamite and said, I need to take a minute and walk around because my shit's hurting, but I don't want to leave. There is no piss break match for this show. Everything is important.
And I was like, yes, yes, you're right. Like, everything matters right now.
Exactly.
And that's what, and it's sad though, because WWE doesn't seem like it's responding to that. Or at least if they are, they're not doing it very well.
No, I don't think they are. They've got this mindset of this is the way wrestling is supposed to be, and no one can tell us otherwise. Whereas Tony Khan and company over at AEW are like, no, we're gonna let the fans tell us what wrestling is. If they like something, we're gonna do it. If they don't like something, we're gonna stop doing it.
Yeah, and that's what makes that experience so much better. That's another thing I love about wrestling is that wrestling, like going to a wrestling show, you make friends. You don't go and like just again, it's like a concert. You go there to go there and you have conversations with people you never fucking talk to on the street, but because you're both there for wrestling, you have one thing in common, and that and you want to talk about that. You want to share your emotions, share your history, share old stories with a guy who you just met in fucking line.
Right. You want to share what you think is going to happen that night. You want to talk about how you feel about the last show. And like John said, these are people you probably never would have talked to just walking down the street, but you're sharing something so visceral and real together that it's not like that line from Fight Club. It's a single serving friend.
Yeah. You're like, oh, thank God. It's someone I can sit next to and bullshit with for like an hour, for like 2 or 3 hours.
Right. Like the guys we had sitting on the other side of us at the arena the other night, they were fucking great. They were getting into it with us. They were joking along with us. They were fucking phenomenal. The dudes we met in line were super cool. There was that drunk couple that sat behind us, but that's a whole different story.
No. We're not leaving that on the fucking table and not talking about it. Listen, this is another thing.
This is one of these things about wrestling is when people go and they obviously don't give a shit or obviously don't know what's going on. And we're not quite sure the backstory of this couple behind us, but I'm betting that somehow, and this was stupid on the guy's part if he's the one that paid for it, that this was a first date scenario, judging by the conversations we were overhearing. And the girl he was with was 18 fucking shits to the wind. Like, she was done for. Like, they had gone out to dinner and gotten drinks and saw the billboard up, and they were like, hey, let's go watch wrestling. It'll be funny. Ha 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 ha.
Yeah, and it's like I get that, and I understand, have your fun the way or however the fuck you want to have your fun, but at the same fucking time, it's like, again, I keep baiting this reference to death, but it's like going to a fucking concert. If you're going to watch if we're going to see Iron Maiden, Chris, all right, we're going to go see Iron fucking Maiden.
All right, cool, let's do it.
We paid like $60 for some really good fucking seats. Now imagine there's a chatty fucking bitch right fucking behind you who only thing she's got to say is, why is he so loud? Why is he saying about Aces High? What the fuck is Aces High? Oh my God. Like, what does he mean run to the hills? Is that a reference to something? And you're just like, God damn it, shut the hell up.
Shut up and enjoy the show. And that's exactly how we felt in the stands on Wednesday night. Like, this girl just kept asking questions. And to the credit of the guy who was with her, he was doing his best to explain it as succinctly as possible and get back to paying attention to the show, but she just wasn't letting him. So if you hear this, props to you for trying. Like, seriously, props to you for trying. I hope she blew the fuck out of you that night because you deserved it.
I mean, to be fair, Chris, how many times to say I'm resisting the urge to choke a bitch?
It was more than once. We'll put it that way. It was more than once.
I looked at Chris and I was like, I am going to murder this woman if she speaks one more time.
Right. So,
like, I'm just gonna be like, you know what, motherfucker, and then wham, wham, wham.
And that leads into some of the downsides of wrestling. And there are downsides. Don't get me wrong. We both love wrestling, but there are some serious downsides. And that's one of them. And I have to say, another one of them, unfortunately, happens at poorly planned indie shows. You knew I was going to bring it up.
Oh, I know you're going to bring it up because
so
that was my greatest failure as an ambassador to wrestling for you.
Right. So this wasn't the first independent show I'd been to. I'd gone to a couple at the Nashville Fairgrounds, which were a lot of fun. But there happened to be one here in our town, just south of Nashville, and it was right down the street. The tickets were cheap. Cornette was going to be there. Tommy Dreamer was going to be there. We're like, okay, we got to go to this, even if it's shitty. We got to go to this. This will be fun, right? So we get there and we're hanging out in line with people, and There's fucking Tracy Smothers in the van next to us smoking a cigarette and lacing up his boots. There's fucking
well, cigarettes a very
cigarettes a very
very
it was chocolate cake.
loose
For
term.
those in the know, it was chocolate cake.
It was chocolate cake.
There was Jim Cornette walking in the building. There was fucking for anyone who's local to the area, there was Chase Stevens, walking into the building because he was wrestling that night. That'll be like the 4th time I've seen him. Actually got to talk to him that night too.
Jerry Lynn
was there. We walked in and we walked up to Cornette's table and we both got to shake his hand, back when we still both liked him. Got to shake his hand and talk to him, and we got to have actually a really cool, like 5-10 minute conversation with Tommy Dreamer, who is one of the most down to earth motherfuckers ever. Like he didn't treat us like fans. If you remember, I felt like we were just having a conversation with another guy. He didn't treat us like fans.
Well, and that's the reason why I love going to shit with you, Chris, because you don't fanboy like I don't. Like for instance, when we saw Marco walking down the street, we didn't stop him and say, "Hey man, can we get a picture real quick?" or some bullshit like that. It was just like, "Hey, what's up?"
I tapped John on the shoulder and go, "Hey, is that little fucking Marco stud?" He's like, "Hey Marco, good luck tonight." And that was it. Marco went about what he was doing. I'm sure he appreciated that because it was a busy fucking night for Marco Stunt.
Yeah, it was. Holy shit! Like that was a very hype episode for me to go to. I'm very happy they did that shit.
Yeah, you and me both. You and me both. So we're at this, as some people might call it, outlaw mudhole wrestling show, because let's face it, this was an outlaw mudhole wrestling show.
Motherfucker.
So we're at this show. We're getting in our seats. We've got some pretty good seats. I mean, it's at an armory building, so all the seats were good seats. And
I was about to say, every seat in that house is really good.
Right. And so we're getting in and we're sitting down and the first match comes up. And the first match went really well. We're like, okay, well, this is how the night's going to go. This is fucking great. Second match comes out. And with it.
That second match had one of our favorite finds ever.
Oh my, Firework. Fucking
Firework Fox Veneer.
This guy, I shit you not. So his gimmick is Firework, right? But he's in a small armory, so we can't have pyro. So what does he do? He's throwing fucking confetti out and acting like it's fireworks. Like he is selling this shit out of this confetti being explosive fireworks. And I was sold. I was sold right fucking there.
He gave himself a hot tag.
He did. He gave himself a hot tag. But about halfway through this match, the ring collapsed.
And not just collapsed and fell flat. Like me and Chris literally saw a ring post coming for our heads collapsed.
It was bad, really bad. So the match stops. Obviously, one of the guys was up under it. They got him out under it. Everyone was fine and whatnot. So it took them 30, 45 minutes to put the ring back together. And everyone in the stands is just sitting there like, okay, can we get this shit underway already? Like, fuck you guys. So they finally get the ring fixed, and you can tell that the guys in the back and the refs are telling the talent, hey, watch out. Don't take super hard bumps against the ring. Well, A, no shit, Sherlock.
Which is like trying to tell people don't walk.
Right. They're in the middle of a match. They're not paying attention to it. They're paying attention to doing their craft correctly. So, of course, they're taking super hard bumps against the ring. So after every match, they're having to come back out and tighten the ropes back up and reset bolts. And it just turns into an utter shit show at this point. To the point...
We had a fucking birthday in that building, both of us.
Yeah. It just turned into an utter shit show. You can see Cornette standing there at what they called their tunnel, and he's just got his head in his hands, and he's just disappointed to be there. From what I understand, he bounced. Like, he was supposed to do other shit that night there,
left.
and he bounced because it was so disappointing. Eventually, they canceled the rest of the show. They offered the rest of us that were there free tickets to their next show, which we did end up going to because... Well, if this one
never happened.
Yeah, it never happened because we're like, well, if this one was shit, what's the next one going to be like? So, and you do get that sometimes with the indie shows, but then you have really good indie shows that you don't expect to go well. Like a lot of the stuff that I went to at the fairgrounds, a bunch of no-name guys and the one or two occasional big names. I saw Bret the Hitman Hart at the fairgrounds. I saw Carlito wrestle Matt Hardy at the fairgrounds a couple years ago, and the rest of the card was crap. But I went, and those shows were awesome. And the crowd was super into it. And I think that's really the biggest part of wrestling. If the crowd is into it, it will make a shit show bearable. If the crowd isn't into it, it can make a good show terrible.
Yeah. And that's and that's why we love wrestling. That's the reason why we want to talk about wrestling. We want to share with you, the listener, our love of wrestling, it's not because it's something we're obsessed with. And we think you should be obsessed with. We want to show you a world where you may have not ever experienced anything like this, but because you are part of, because you are part of the crowd, you get into it. It and again, like I said, at the beginning, that's the reason why I hate gatekeeping. Gatekeeping, you know what gatekeeping does? It tells people to stay the fuck away from whatever you're.
Right. And it's not needed, it's not necessary, and all it is counterintuitive.
Yeah, and and that's the reason why. That's another thing I hate about wrestling is gatekeeping. And one of the people we talked about, Jim Cornette,
He is definitely one of those.
Yeah, he thinks if wrestling isn't like it was in the 70s and 80s, then it's bullshit.
If it's not Smoky Mountain Wrestling, it's not wrestling.
If it's not AWA or WCCW
or NWA,
then it's bullshit. Which, Corny, I know you may never ever listen to this, and I'm fine with that if you never do. But if you ever do,
what happened to you, man?
Please,
what happened to you, Jim? Like, really?
Well, it's like I get it. You don't like the flippy bullshit, which I understand. Even I hate it sometimes. I think it goes a little too fucking far. And I understand you don't like hardcore wrestling, and I'm with you on that sometimes too. I think certain people do it too goddamn far. But at the same fucking time, you're such an old curmudgeon now that nobody wants to do business with you. Even the ones that want to do business with you are doing it begrudgingly.
Right.
And you're bringing down their product.
I think what Cornette's biggest problem is, honestly, is we were talking about this earlier tonight before we even started the show, is that things change. And that's okay. Things are supposed to change. Wrestling used to be about 6'8", 380-pound dudes jacking the shit out of each other. Well, that's not what it is anymore.
Whoa. Well, wait a minute, Chris.
Okay, sorry about the Joey Ryan reference there.
That is still one thing I don't like. I hate Joey Ryan.
Everyone can agree on that. We all hate the dick gimmick. Joey Ryan, please either think of something else or go away. One of the two.
Well, just get rid of the dick flip.
Just get rid of the dick flip.
If you get rid of the dick flip, I will go back to being a fan of you. But until then,
right.
Nah.
But Jim doesn't want the change, and that's what's happening. Wrestling isn't 380-pound, 6'3" guys tossing each other around. It's 180 to 220-pound guys who are a little smaller but still physically fit, who are able to do more acrobatic things in the ring. And that's just the way the business is evolving, and he can't stand that. And because he can't move with the times, he's going to fall by the wayside. I hate to say it, but Cordy's losing a lot of people's respect, ours included.
Yeah, I used to be a huge Cornette fan. I loved him. I bought shit from him multiple times. I've talked to him multiple fucking times. Now I can't even stand him because he not only is it just because he's an asshole about wrestling, he's also kind of an asshole in real life too. He's a homophobe. He's a misogynist. He's a transphobic piece of shit. And I can't listen to him anymore. I don't like what the fuck he says. I think he is indicative of what is wrong with a lot of parts of this country without getting too fucking political. He is indicative of what's wrong with certain parts of society. He needs to shut the fuck up and let the world go past him or join us. That's the only options you got. Because I guarantee you're going to get lost in the fucking dust if you don't come with us.
Exactly. He's railing against a lot of these new talents, most of them AEW talents, because it's not what he likes. That's fine if you don't like it. But there are people that do. Don't bash something just because you don't like it. If you're going to bash it, have a reason to bash it. If you're saying, oh, well, that guy's shit, well, is he really, or do you just not like him? Like, if he's legitimate a shit worker, okay, yeah, I'll agree with you. He's a shit worker. He sucks in the ring. Yeah, fuck him. But don't bash people just because you don't like their gimmick or you don't like their style. Like, that's stupid. And Cornette, I know you're smarter than that.
Well, and that's the reason why he bashes him, because he gets that, that 34 to 59 range for the podcast.
Right.
I'm 30 years old, so I'm not in his wheelhouse anymore. But maybe there will be a time where I'm in his boat where it's like, God, you can't lock up and then go straight to the 6:30. Like, you gotta save that for the end of the match. You can't do a 6:30 senton like in the first third. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? You gotta save that for the main event. But I happen to believe, and maybe I'll be wrong in about 20 or so years. I'll be wrong, but I happen to think that I would be more willing to go forward with it because I was at first I hated Kenny Omega and I thought the Young Bucks were trash. But after watching their newer stuff, I was like, no, these guys are really good, and I actually really enjoy their matches. And I changed my opinion.
I agree with you there. I think wrestling is moving toward more of a mix where you can have these big hulking guys that can also be super athletic and super acrobatic. For instance, two of the guys that I'm very much behind in AEW, Scorpio Sky, and the man who's out to do nothing more than some cowboy shit, Hangman Adam Page. Adam Page, first of all, he's a Virginia boy, so I got to give him props on that one. Secondly,
I think you like pretty boys, Chris. I don't know.
It's got nothing to do with that, man. Adam Page, he's in the same boat as Scorpio Sky, man. He's a big guy, and that dude can fucking move
and tell a story in the
and tell a story
on the mic.
He's great everywhere, and he has got to be. If Tony Khan's looking at his top 5 big guys, not necessarily stature wise, but draws. That his name's got to be on that list. End of discussion. Adam Page has to be on that list. He is a top guy in that respect, and I think the company knows that. And
oh yeah, they do.
I think that's what wrestling's moving more towards. Is you can have your 250-pound Hulks, but your 250-pound Hulks can also kip up like they're 150 pounds. Your 250-pound Hulks can do suicide dives with a flip in there if they want to. Your 250-pound Hulks can, win a sprint against the 180-pound guy if they want to. I think that's where wrestling's going, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah, same here. And another thing that kind of gets on my fucking nerves is the internet wrestling community. Listen, I love you guys. I'm part of you. All right? I get it. We're all very opinionated about the shit we love. But it's the same fucking time. Can we, just enjoy the product and stop bitching about every tiny little thing? I get, I bitch about the huge fucking things. Like, for instance, the stuff going on with Jordan Miles at the time of this recording. Yeah, no, fuck WWE for that.
Yeah, fuck.
They're pieces of shit.
Fuck them for that one.
They are garbage people for doing that shit. Whoever approved that design needs to get kicked in the fucking dick.
And fired.
Yeah, and fired. At the very least. Fired.
Yeah, that's just absolute trash. And I do want to say that John and I, if you can't tell, are very much in the AEW camp of things now. Like, we're both huge fans. Point being, I purposely have Hulu Live just so I can watch Wednesday Night Dynamite live when it happens every week, because that's how much I want to support them.
And I'm not even going to say I'm just AEW. I am a alternative wrestling fan. Always have been. That's the reason why I love the Attitude Era. That's the reason why I love the Monday Night Wars. Because there was another thing to watch. If I didn't like what WCW was doing, I can go to WWE. If I didn't like what WWE was doing, I can go to ECW. If I didn't like what ECW was doing, see above.
Right.
I had options. Now I have options. If I don't like what AEW is doing at the moment, I can go to New Japan Pro Wrestling and watch that. If I don't like what the New Japan's doing, I can go watch
MLW or NWA
MLW.
or
and
HOG.
MLW is really good.
MLW is really good.
Mance Warner is one of my favorite wrestlers. I don't know if you know who he is.
Yeah, I've seen pictures and I've heard of him.
Oh, the Southern Psychopath.
Yeah.
Man, I fucking love that dude. He's a hoss.
But we were talking with a couple guys in line at the show about this, and this really is like a second revolution for wrestling. It is never in the past 30 years, this is the best time to be a wrestling fan, because we finally have options again. You can watch ROH on cable and on demand. You can watch New Japan Pro on demand. You can watch.
Hell, even Impact is good now.
Well, Impact is better.
No, it's better. It's not great, but it's better.
You can watch Impact. You can watch WWE. You can watch AEW. You can watch NWA. There is a multitude of companies out there with a good enough production value that you will watch it and then get invested in what they have. It's wrestling's second revolution, I think.
Yeah, like before it was like WWE was the Beatles. We only had the Beatles. Now AEW's there and we've got the Rolling Stones. We also have these tiny bands that are out there. You may not like the Beatles, and I may not like the Rolling Stones, but we can go watch different concerts if we want to go watch them.
Exactly.
And we can compare notes. We can talk about it. We don't like not everything needs to be a direct fucking comparison. And it's like, this is the reason why I love wrestling, man. Wrestling to me is like what music is to you.
Yes.
Wrestling to me is like that is what formed me. I've always wanted to be in the wrestling business. I've always wanted to be like a manager or a commentator. I kind of did it a little bit for Twitch, and I loved doing it.
Yeah, we have mentioned it before, but we had a show on Twitch that was called Thursday Night Riots, where we basically had our own e-fed, and we commentated over it like we were actual commentators. We had characters. We ourselves were characters. We created characters, and it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of work, but it was a lot of fun.
But the thing is like and I'm not gonna say it never felt like work, because it did at times. But even when we had a really good show, we felt it. We were like, oh my god, that was fucking amazing.
That was great. Everything went the way that we needed it to. That felt great. It felt like we were really at a show, that we were really doing a real show. And this is slightly off topic, but I want to make sure I hit this point. I have to thank wrestling for something very important in my life. So, I have a younger brother, and we don't always see eye to eye on everything. We don't see eye to eye on a lot of things, actually. We're two very different people. But the one thing that we share is wrestling. And I kind of got him into it a little bit. And since these quote-unquote Wednesday night wars started between AEW and NXT, though they're not really wars, it's really not that. But if you have to put a name on it, that's what we're calling it.
It's getting there.
It's getting there. So when these Wednesday night wars started, by the way, Josh, 7 weeks running, bitch. But since these Wednesday night wars started, my brother and I'll be watching AEW and he'll be watching NXT, and we'll be texting each other back and forth, and we're talking shit to one another, talking about promos and, cutting up and whatnot. And it's changed the dynamic of the relationship I have with my brother for the better. So I have to thank wrestling for that, because there was a while there where, I'll be honest, him and I really probably didn't like each other very much, and now we have something else to bond over.
The relationship between you and your brother, up until wrestling became a big part of both your lives, was kind of frayed.
It was. Absolutely it was.
It made me a little bit sad. I was like, man, because I'm an only kid. So I was like, man, if I had a brother that was like close to my fucking age, I'd be talking to him like every fucking day about shit.
I wouldn't call him 9.5 years close to my age, but
that's closer than what I got. I had 20 years difference between me and my half sister. So, at the time, I have a stepsister now that's closer to my age, and we bullshit all the fucking time. But anyways, and that's not the beautiful thing about wrestling is it brings people together. Like, I know it sounds cheesy and fucking bullshit, but it's the honest truth. I feel like entertainment can bring people together of all shapes, sizes, political beliefs, religious beliefs, personal beliefs. At the end of the day, when you go into a wrestling show, everybody's gonna be, you may disagree on who you root for, but you're all there for the same fucking reason. I want to be entertained and I want to have a good fucking time. And that right there is the key to humanity. Everybody needs to get together and get over the bullshit of I don't like this person because blah 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 blah. And it's like, well, yeah, but that's your fucking uncle.
Right.
Like, stop acting like you don't have a relationship with him. Stop acting like you want to get so far away from reality and from society that I just want to be isolated all the fucking time. No, the fuck you don't. Nobody wants to be isolated 24 fucking 7. We're humans. We are social animals. We want to be around other humans. And at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what it is. If you love music and you want to talk about music all the fucking time, good. Get obsessed with it. Me and Chris, we share a mutual love of wrestling together. We can talk about wrestling all day. We can talk about, metal and all that shit all fucking day. Find shit you can talk about and discuss and have a good time with. That's what the human interaction, that's what the human experience is. And it's really weird that we're having this fucking conversation on a show about wrestling.
Yeah, on a show about wrestling, we're getting all deep and philosophical and shit. Like, what the fuck?
But that's what wrestling is. It is a collective is a collective storytelling experience. Like we we might tell our kids, I was there the night that uh, you know I was there the night Adam Page beat Chris Jericho for the AEW title, and I was sharing that experience with complete strangers, and we were all together, all in.
No pun intended again.
No pun intended again. But that's the beauty of stuff like this. Find something you're obsessed with, and if you don't have anything obsessed with, well, you know what? Me and Chris might have something for you. It's a little thing called professional wrestling.
Exactly.
And we want you to join us. We want you to have fun with us. Turn your brain off every once in a while.
Turn your brain off every once in a while and just enjoy something for the sake of enjoying it. So before we wrap this up, I got a good one for you. So I want you to give me one thing WWE is doing right, and one big thing they're doing wrong, and then give me one thing AEW is doing right and one thing they're doing wrong.
Okay. Well, I'll start with WWE.
Okay.
The one thing that they are doing right is that they are finally starting to push NXT is not a developmental brand, but as its own thing. I've been screaming about this for years. I've been saying, look, this is what wrestling fans want. Sports entertainment fans may want Raw and SmackDown, but wrestling fans like me, we want NXT. We want athletic competitions, and now they're finally starting to push it. It's starting to show. People give a fuck about NXT stuff now. The biggest thing they're doing wrong is that they don't go all in with their booking. Like they'll give us like a taste of it, and then they'll back off and never talk about it again, or at least for like another 3 fucking months. And it's annoying. It's like, God damn it. I don't want to tune out, but at the same time, it's like I can't continue trying to support this. AEW, one thing they're doing really well, they're treating it like a sport. They are treating it like every match matters, because right now every match does matter. Every match is very, very, very important in AEW. The one thing I think that they're doing wrong, and I might catch hell for this, but one thing I think they're doing wrong is it feels like at times there's so much chaos on the screen that's happening at one fucking moment that it's kind of hard to get invested in simple stuff. And that might just be me, and I'm perfectly okay with that. I understand, but I feel like at times AEW can be a little bit too chaotic, but that's not a bad thing.
Okay,
it's just a different thing for me.
I think
that's a taste thing for me.
I think those are all pretty damn good points. As far as I'm concerned, I'll have to agree with you on the 2 big WWE ones. Is that yes, they're finally pushing NXT as a major brand, as they should have been for a while, because that's what their core base really wants. Not the little kids. It's the dads that are taking the little kids to show. That's what they've wanted for years, is something like NXT with Vince's money behind it. That's what they've wanted, and now they're finally getting it, and it's being treated the way it deserves to be treated for the most part. The negative side of things is a lot of what's going on with them behind the scenes. Like they are not doing so well lately, and it's a lot of their own fault. They are shooting themselves in the foot left and right. And it's easily preventable shit if they would just listen to their fans. If they would listen to what their fan base wants, a lot of this dumb shit they keep doing to themselves would stop happening. They wouldn't be as far behind in the Wednesday night ratings wars. I mean, with this past week, they were behind AEW by 200,000 viewers from a company that's been around literally 6 months.
Yeah.
Then they were
not even,
and they were behind by 200,000 viewers. So I think if they listened more to their fans and engaged more, they might see something in that. And I really hope they do. I'm not expecting them to, but I really hope they do.
Yeah, I don't want WWE to fail. I want it to be better.
And we're cautiously optimistic on that one. Very cautious. Unfortunately. As far as AEW goes, the thing that I think they're doing right, man, they're not only treating it like a sport, because that's a big deal, showing win-loss records on the screen, talking about win-loss records during a match, talking about how if guy X wins this match, how does that play out for the next week or two going into these next few matches we have set up. I think that's hugely important for making it seem more legitimate and making it seem more, like you said, like an actual sport. Uh, the one thing I think that they're doing not wrong, but just could be different, and I think we're starting to see this shift now with the last show, is they were basically investing all of their storytelling, like camera time and mic work. They're investing all their storytelling into being the elite and AEW Dark. And I think they need to have more of it on the television show because you might get new people or lapsed fans that are coming back and watching Dynamite and are really into it, but they're not getting a lot of the storytelling. They're just getting matches. With this past week's episode, that started to change. This was definitely a promo week. Everybody had something to say, which I'm happy about because for those people that aren't going to jump on YouTube and watch those two other shows, now you're getting some of your storytelling on your 2-hour TV show, which has to be done. You can't not do it. So, yes, still do some of it on AEW Dark. Yes, still do some of it on Being the Elite. But you have to set up your major story points on your TV show, or you're not going to get people to come back and watch your TV show.
And it showed. Like, in the ratings, it showed.
Yeah, absolutely it did.
A lot more people were like, holy shit, you should see this MJF. See, it's Chris Jericho and MJF in the ring together. It's amazing. Okay, click. Like, it shows. And again, like I said to Chris, when wrestling is bad, it's real bad. But when wrestling is good,
it's real
oh man,
good.
there's very little out there that can compete with it, in my mind.
All right, last point. Worst, and this is just be a quick one. Worst thing you've ever seen in a wrestling match. Like this, the thing that made you go, what in the fuck is this? Your what the fuck moment in wrestling. Besides Joey Ryan.
Well, okay. And again, Joey Ryan, if you ever listen to this and you want to get in touch with us and want to have an interview with us, we'd be more than happy to do it.
Just leave your dick alone. Just leave your dick at home, please.
No, bring your dick with you. I want to talk about it. But it's wow, I can't believe I said that. Whatever, fuck it. The most what the fuck thing I've ever seen of wrestling. It's got to be TNA when it went to Monday nights.
Yeah.
You had really good talent that was young. You could have easily pushed them. Who'd you push instead? Oh, Hulk Hogan, who was like 60 at the time.
Ric Flair.
Ric Flair, who just retired the year before. Bischoff, Mick Foley, Booker T. And those guys are great, but it ain't their fucking time anymore, man. You had AJ Styles, Christopher Daniels, and Samoa Joe on that fucking program, and it was about 3 old guys? Who gives a fuck? Like,
I mean, let's be honest about that one. That was Bischoff trying to relive the Monday Night Wars.
That's fine, a fucking dandy, but guess what, Bischoff? I love you to death, and you've done some great things, but that was dead on arrival right there, my friend. You can't book WCW again. You've already done it once. Do something new. And he lost his way. A lot of people lost their way in that. A lot of egos got in it.
Yes, they most certainly did. And we saw that whole phase petered out of TNA pretty fucking quick.
But if we're talking about one individual moment, for me, it had to be when Mae Young gave birth to a hand.
Oh, God.
I watched that live, and I was sitting there with my dad, and we both looked at each other like,
the fuck?
Yo, fuck this. Fuck this, we're going to Nitro.
Right?
Like, this is what? This is what you're giving me? That's that. If you don't know what that is, look it up. I cannot talk about it because it will get me hot and we'll be on for another hour.
Right. My biggest
for you, Chris.
what the fuck moment in wrestling was an Extreme Rules pay-per-view a few years ago, and I was at a Hooters with, I don't know if you were there with us or not, but it was me and Jaron, definitely. No, Jaron was actually at the event because it was in Maryland. But
yeah, I think it was me, you, and another friend of yours.
We were at Hooters watching it, and this is supposed to be an Extreme Rules pay-per-view, like playing off that ECW vibe. And what happens? Batista duct tapes John Cena to the ring. And it's just the stupidest moment you ever see. Because he duct tapes him by, his fucking feet. Like, he, handcuffed duct tapes his feet to the ring post
Well, it was a last man standing match.
Yes.
So instead of trying to beat him to the point where he can't stand up, because this is when John Cena was Super Cena, he duct taped his feet to the ring post and hung him upside down so he couldn't stand up.
Yeah,
And that's how it ended.
You're watching going, fucking really? Like, I literally left that show going, fucking really? That's how we do this?
You're like, I'm fucking, I hate wrestling again.
Yeah, pretty much. And we went through those phases. So, but the plan for this format is to try and do it about once every 10 episodes. We'll give you an update on our views on wrestling, what's going on in the wrestling world. We will be back next time with a completely different topic and a completely different story. And hopefully Billy will be back with us next time. But until then, I have been Chris the Metal Barrett, a.k.a. the Tony Schiavone for this episode.
And I have been Rattler McNasty. You can find me on Twitter at John_the_Joker. I don't know why I have that since my name is Rattler McNasty, but hey, that's the way things go, I guess.
All right. Well, from all of us,
Chris,
here,
what's your handle? What's your handle on Twitter?
At the Metal Barrett, all one word.
And of course, if you want to keep up with the Anarchy Arena podcast, please follow us on Twitter at Anarchy Arena Pod. We will be posting updates from there pretty regularly once the show is live. So once we start doing that, it's going to start popping.
So make sure you guys pay attention to all the social media. We will keep you all posted on that. But for now, this has been the Anarchy Arena podcast, and we will see you next time.
Oh, yes. Yes. Our podcast may be resting in peace for this episode, but it once again will rise. Oh, yes. Make sure you guys check out the Anarchy Arena podcast Twitter handle at Anarchy Arena Pod. And of course, if you want to check out your host for this episode, it is at The Metal Barrett. That's BARRET. And of course, if you want to check out my Twitter handle, it's John_the_Joker. And if you give us a quick follow and follow the podcast Twitter, you know exactly when episodes go live and where you can listen to them. Thank you so much for joining us here today. We appreciate each and every one of you. Oh, yes!